Welcome to Dog on the Plot. I'm Kerry, this is Dorie, and before I do anything else this weekend, I need to exchange this dog for these. The Pronabos. The reason being, if you've been watching So Chatty, you'll know that I have been in a quandary whether to prune my soft fruits or not because we are really out of time. But lots of you said it will be fine. So I'm taking your advice. I'm just going to go for it because it is getting a little bit big for this space. I could have just left it, let it continue to bush out. But yeah, this is quite a narrow space as it is, and it's already seeming rather big. It's actually weeping a little bit. I hope that's okay. Anyway, my first big decision is whether I take out this entire branch. I am of the mind to just go ahead and do it. So, Pronabos in place. Here we go. Whoa, it does it so fast, so fast. Oh my goodness, look at that. Whoa. Well, that certainly opened things up a little bit. Oh. Right, we'll trim that down and pop it in the dead hedge. Now, while this is late to be pruning a cherry tree, the Pronabo does such a nice, clean cut that my hope is that this is a nice wound that will heal really well and therefore will not, hopefully, get attacked by the fungus that covers the silver leaf, which is the reason why you wouldn't be pruning at this time of year. Now, this one is coming at a funny angle, so that can go. This one is too low, so that can go. Oh, it's got caught in the passiflora. And then these two branches are far too close together. This is the smaller, spindlier one. Oh, missed it. There we go. So now I'm just going to cut down by about a third. Oh, I don't actually need the Pronabos for these little ones, but it seems that I've got them in my hand. This one. Oh. There we go. Last one in the middle. There we go. That's it. Job done. Now, when it takes all of 2 minutes like that, you wonder why you've been putting it off for so long. But actually, it's not that tree that I was worried about. It's this one. This is my, well, what I think is a Victoria plum. Obviously, it was here when I moved in. It's a well-established tree. It's been pruned hard in the past and then not fruited. But this year, it fruited rather well. But it's a bit tall. And actually, I think I'm going to need the telescopic pole for this one. All right. There's the pole. First step is to disinfect the blades after they've been on the other. Yeah. That was dangerous, wasn't it? Don't do that. Don't stick your fingers in between the blade while the battery is on there. Yeah. Honestly, these things. Right, okay, so I'm gonna try and do the lower branches first and see what can come off. That, for a start, old branch with nothing on. This one is crossing right over the main branch there, but this is going to be a huge one. In fact, I'm going to pull the camera back. Don't want to break the phone. Right, here we go. Wowzers. Yeah, that is a big one. Wow, that's opened it up a lot. And it's much better not to have branches on this side because, whoops, you nearly got knocked over. That's where the compost heap is, and I need to get by here. So actually something like that can come out. Okay, what have we got here? I don't like those branches. Now, as with the cherry tree, we've got this branch coming off here. That's crossing there. So I'm going to take this whole thing off. That's a lot better. Okay. This one as well has nothing on. It's just an old dead branch. I'm at the 50 centimetre. I think that should do it. Yep. Right, I might just tidy up this trunk a little bit because I've caught myself on this so many times. Okay, so that leaves us with the main trunk the branch that goes off here, and then this comes off into two, which is fine. So I'm just going to take some of these scraggly ones off this side to open up this area that's between the tree and the compost. Now, what's this doing? I don't think that's a good branch. That's crossing there as well. How am I going to get to that one? There? Oh, it's a very awkward branch. There we go. Can I do it cleanly though? Oh, I think I may need to step on something. There we go. Oh my. I'm beginning to think I might have gone a bit far. Oh well, let's do the trimming now. So, trying to get an outward facing bud, not being too fussy. That's fine, that's fine. That seems fine, that's overlapping. Get that one out. And then last but not least, come on down. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna call that job done. There we go. Another Pronabo session without losing any fingers. That's a win. I do love it, but yeah, it scares me to death every time I use it. Okay, that's a job really well done. Should have been done a month ago, but we get there in the end. Hopefully I won't be caught out with silver leaf. But although it's a pretty dull day, it is apple day on our community orchard. So I'm going to get Dorie and we're going to head down there. I'm going to go pick some apples. Well, not a bad little haul from Apple Day. I just picked a few different varieties. I've taste tested all those apples over the years, but you can never quite remember the ones that you really like. So I've got a little bit of a selection there. I've headed down the plot now because I'm going to Liam's in a bit and I want to get some things for dinner, in particular a curry. So I'm in the polytunnel for tomatoes. Plenty of little cherries still. I think these are the sun gold. Yeah. Which have been obviously wonderful as always. Now this one, this will be the first that I've had from this plant. I think it's about ready. Let's see if I can just take one and not all the others. Ooh, oh no. Always the way, isn't it? But this one is California tulip. This was seed from Ali and it's a beautiful shaped tomato. And last but not least, look at that one. Marsha's Starfighter beef. Wowzers. Once more, I am harvesting far too much than I can actually carry home. 2 gherkins as well. Right, let's see what else we've got. A courgette. Now the plants are looking a little worse for wear, but there's plenty of courgettes still coming, and this one is lovely. Knock the top off. I always do that, don't I? Similarly, the patty pans are looking a little bit worse for wear, but there's still some little ones on here, and the trick is really to pick these small, much like courgettes. That one's a little bit too small, so I'll leave that one, but I'm sure I saw a yellow one over here. Oh, maybe I harvested that one already. Yeah, those are a bit small. Okay, we'll leave those, that's fine. 1 patty pan is enough. But while we're here, I might get one of these leeks because they're looking a bit rough, and might as well eat them. Well, they're still okay. There we go. Well, that soil is lovely. There you go. So what is it that's in there? Bit of rust, probably a bit of allium leaf miner. I reckon most of that will be fine. Okay. Right, lastly, I think an aubergine always goes nicely in curry. Let's take that big one that we saw last week. This one is, I think, oh, it's got a hard stem. Black Beauty. Oh, that's beautiful. And I think we might still have some of these Petit Marseille peppers. I'm just looking if any others are ripening. I am quite worried that these peppers aren't going to ripen in time. But, oh well, I'll take another couple of these ones. Right, I think that'll have to be it because it gets dark very early now. So, okay, off to Derby. Before I do what I'm here to do, I'm just going to take out these 2 brambles that have made their way into the greenhouse. These were spotted by Ali a week or so ago, and I thought I can't possibly have them still in the video this week. There we go, brambles out. I'm sure it won't be too long before they're coming back in, but that's better. Right, I'm in the greenhouse because I'm actually going to sow something. And if you've been watching So Chatty, you may know that Claire and I have decided to sow our sensu onions, our Japanese onions, now. She has it on experience, or her sister's experience, that if you sow them now, you can still get lovely big onions next year. My instructions, these are Seedcraft ones, they say to sow in trays in August for planting out in October, or direct sow ideally in mid-August, which clearly we've missed. But Claire says, sow now, keep in the greenhouse over winter and put out in the spring, and we can get some Japanese onions. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I don't have a Seedcraft subscription, but one of my plot neighbours does. And so when she has used what seed she wants to use, and you can see this one has been opened, so she's sown some of this, she then puts the rest of the seed in the community library, and somebody else, me in this case, can come along and they can try it too. I'm just going to put a bit of vermiculite in with this compost and then fill up the seed tray. Let's find a relatively clean one. There we go. Now I've already written my label, so I'm just going to sprinkle the seed on top and then cover lightly with compost. Just going to pop that in the flimsy in the greenhouse and we'll see if we get some germination. Now the seed that's left, because there's quite a bit still in there, I'm going to pop it back into the packet and I'm going to take it back to the community library to give somebody else a chance to grow sensu onions, because onion seed doesn't keep. Now, since I started recording this video a few days ago, I've had some inquiries. Look at this loofah. I've had some inquiries about the Pronabo, probably. What? Dorie is being a little bit naughty. She keeps barking every time I try and speak to the camera. So she's joining us. Maybe she's a bit put out because she wasn't in last week's video. Some of you noticed. She was fine. She was just being spoilt by her grandma, weren't you? So she's going to sit here in her old basket while I tell you about a deal that I've secured. So I was using the Pronabos at the beginning of the video, and now you want to get down. No, you have to stay there. Sit. No, you want to look at the Pronabos. Yeah, too dangerous for dogs. Claire and I have been talking about these quite a bit on So Chatty, and so there's been some renewed interest in them, which I thought, well, I'll reach out to Pronabo and see if they can offer a new discount code. Not only have they offered a 10% discount code for you, they have also let me know that during Amazon Prime Big Deals Day, which is the 7th to the 8th of October, these are going to be on a really good deal. So if you're interested in the Pronabos, I'll put a link below along with my discount code and also a link to my original review video for them. What? Before we head into the final segment of this week's video, there was one more thing that I wanted to address. So obviously this is releasing on a Saturday, which is not my normal release date, but I think I'm going to stick with the Saturday for the foreseeable because it works better with my timetable for this semester. The summer is over. It's back to a full teaching load, and yeah, life got busy. So full-time job, garden, allotment, partner who lives in a different city, very demanding dog, family. All of these things have meant, yeah, things have maybe it got a little bit overwhelming. So I have spoken with Tony over at the Pottymouth Garden Club and decided to step back a little bit. So I'm still part of the crew, just not a regular anymore, but I do hope to pop on now and then because, yeah, I want to catch up with all the good friends that I made on Pottymouth. But it also means I'm not on YouTube 3 nights a week, which is probably a little bit too much. So obviously you can still catch me chatting with Claire on So Chatty on a Tuesday evening. And what it's also meant is that Claire and I can extend our first season of So Chatty. So our intention is to go to the October half term, take a little break, and then go right through to the new year. I hope that's good news to people. Yeah. Apologies, slight interruption there. My phone alerted me to the fact that my Sarah Raven bulbs had arrived, only when I went to the door, there was nothing there, and there's nothing outside, and there was nothing at my neighbours. And so, yeah, after some while talking with Yodel on their live chat, I was advised to go walk the streets and see if I could find them. Luckily, I've had things misdelivered in the past, and I was able to find the house they had been sent to. It's actually one of my school friends, and so it was nice to catch up with her. All worked out well in the end. But yeah, got my first bulbs. Here we go. Tulip, labelle, epoch. These were part of a birthday present from Liam, and they are a tulip variety that I have coveted for some time. So I'm really looking forward to planting those in the next couple of weeks. Add those to the to-do list. And also thank you to everybody who sent birthday wishes. That was much appreciated, and I had a really lovely day. So thank you. On So Chatty on Tuesday, we're going to be talking about preserving our produce and storing produce. And I mentioned in the previous episode whether people would like to see me doing some tomato canning, and it seemed like you would, so I'm going to do it. And I've got home from work tonight, it's Thursday evening, and I've just chopped a load of tomatoes, all different varieties. I've not picked certain ones. In fact, the ones that I picked were the ones that were a bit soft, so wanted to be used first. And I plonked those all together into a saucepan, ready to cook up some chopped tomatoes. I'm not doing anything special. I'm not making pasta sauce or anything else. I'm just doing chopped tomatoes, and that's all I've done this year. Maybe next year I'll get a little bit more adventurous. But the thing with chopped tomatoes with nothing in them, not nothing, one sec. I have been putting in a little sprig of bay, so I shall pop that in there. But other than the bay leaf, that is just chopped tomatoes. What else I've got going on here? So this is my big crock pot. I bought this last year from Asda because I was using this one before and it wasn't quite tall enough, because when you water bath your jars, they need at least an inch of water over the top. And I couldn't quite get that with this without it also being quite messy. So a nice tall pot. I can fit 7 pint jars in here, or 12 fluid ounces jars. And I've placed a trivet in the bottom, the jars on top, filled that with water, and then it's been on the gas and I've brought it to the boil. It's currently boiling with the jars inside, and I'm just leaving that for 10 minutes to sterilize the jars. I've sterilized the lids separately in this little pot. You don't technically need to sterilize your jars when you're going to be water bathing for like an extended period of time, and I'm going to be water bathing for about 40 minutes. So you could skip that step. However, because you've got to bring all this water to the boil anyway, I think, well, might as well sterilize the jars. Just adds 10 minutes, and better safe than sorry. So all of that is going on the hob, but I've also set up my space here. And I think this is a really good idea to get everything set out and ready so it's to hand. So I've got my trivet, which the pot of tomatoes will go on when I'm putting them into the jars. I've got some white vinegar, which I'll be using with this to clean the rims of the jars. I've got my citric acid there, which is going to go into each of the jars before I put the tomatoes in. And I've got my little 1/4 teaspoon measure for that. I've got my jar picker-upper. Might be a technical term for that. This is a little magnet thing that picks up the lids from the hot water, which is awesome. And that came with this debubbler and a measure for the space at the top of the jars. So those were from Amazon, and I shall stick them on my store link, but they're really cool. A ladle and a funnel for the jars. That, I think, is everything, but I do have my little cheat sheet here. This is adapted from, I think it's the Bell website for canning tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, but I've like adapted it for my situation and the size of the jars that I have. And I've added things like all the stuff that I need to put out. So if this is of interest to people, I can share that online as well. So this is my entire method. And I've got that there not because canning tomatoes is particularly hard. There's just things that you need to remember, and you need to remember them so that you're canning safely. Okay. And I would also like to say at that point, not an expert in canning. I started canning last year. I've really hit my stride this year. This is maybe my 4th batch that I've done so far. It's going to be the last batch because this is the last of my jars, and that's why I wanted to film it. But yeah, do look to other sources as well for reassurance that you're doing it safely. Right, that's been 10 minutes. So those jars are sterilized. And this for me is one of the scariest parts because you have to lift each jar out, but of course it's full of boiling water. So you need to tip it really carefully, keeping a firm grip of the jar to get all of that water out. Don't let it dribble down the end and onto your hand. There we go. And then you can place it onto the mat. Now the other thing is, so you don't want to empty all the jars back into here because once you put the full jars in, you'd have too much water in the pan. So I do it with 2 or 3 because you can always take a bit of water out if it gets too high. But the rest needs to go down the sink or into a bowl, which is probably better actually, keeping it all close by. I'm just going to give my tomatoes a stir, but they're looking fine. So I'm going to prepare my jars now with the citric acid. So for these, what are essentially a pint jar, it's a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid in the bottom of each jar. You can use concentrate, sort of store-bought lemon juice, and you would put a tablespoon into each jar for that. You wouldn't use fresh lemon juice. Right, I'm now ready then to put my tomatoes in the jar. The tomatoes have broken down, and as you could probably see from earlier when I was chopping them up, I have left in all the skins, all the seeds. I will take out the bay leaf though, because my goal here is essentially to have as close to fresh tomatoes as possible. Now the jars are hot because they've come out the boiling water, so I can put the hot tomatoes straight into them without worrying that the jars might break. And don't be afraid to fill them. So I fill them to pretty much the base of the funnel there, but we're going to check that in a moment. Now I'm going to take my debubbler and just move it around the jars to dislodge any air. And the reason you're doing that is because if there's a big air bubble in it, it might change the level of the tomatoes in the jar. I mean, this is quite liquid, so it's unlikely that there'll be much going on. But it's good to get into the practice of doing things right, because if you were to make a pasta sauce, then that might be more important because it's a thicker sauce and you might get air bubbles like that. Now, I think these are a little bit too full. Let me just clean that. So that's the half. Actually, that's fine, but that bit is a bit sticking out. So I'm just, again, better safe than sorry, just going to take that bit out and then perhaps put a little bit of the sauce in just to bring that up. There we go. Again, I might just take a little bit out of there, but I'm happy with that. Now these ones can all have more in, and I made this mistake last year, which was I did not fill my jars quite enough last year. Luckily it was fine, and I ate them pretty quickly anyway. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So we'll move that out of the way. Before we put the lids on, we want to clean the rims with some white vinegar. So again, I've got that ready to hand. This is why it's nice to be prepared and have everything right there when you need it. So I'm just going around each of the rims to make sure there's no tomato residue on that rim that then might prevent the lid from sealing. And then that just leaves us with the lids. So if I take out the rings first. I've got some different sizes here because some of these jars are wide mouth and some are standard. So I've got to get the right lids for each one. So that's a wide mouth one. So that can go on there. Oh, in fact, it was two. And just like putting the hot liquid into the hot jar, we've got hot lids here going on to hot jars. Just finger tight. So don't like crunch it. You just need to make sure that it's fastened. Okay, so that's them all ready to go back into the water bath now. So each one needs to get popped back in the hot water. So you don't want to spend too long over this because if the jars go too cold, then they might crack when they hit the hot water in the water bath. Okay, that's the last one. And you can see the water level there is well above an inch of the jars. So that's absolutely fine. So let's get the heat back on, the lid back on. So now that needs to come back up to a rolling boil, which will take some time, but don't start your timer until it's at that point that you've got the rolling boil. Then you want to water bath your tomatoes for between 35 and 45 minutes. So for pint jars, small jars like this, 35 minutes should be enough. If you're doing bigger jars, quart jars, then you want 45 minutes. These little pint jars, I'm just going to do for 40 minutes. Just pick something in between. I'm going to do them for 40 minutes. Again, I feel safe with that. Don't take them straight out of the water bath. Leave them 5 or 10 minutes just for the water to come down a tin temperature a little bit. It's a bit safer to handle then. And then they want to pop back onto the mat. So again, don't put them onto a cold work surface, put them onto the mat. And then they'll just stay on the mat until the morning when I can test if they have sealed. So we'll do that in the morning, see if we have 7 jars of perfectly sealed chopped tomatoes. In the meantime, I think I'm going to be eating some tomatoes because there's quite a bit left. It's a good job I made some bread. In fact, make it into a soup, couldn't I? Might do that. Anyway, I shall see you in the morning. Okay, it's just gone 6 and I need to be out the door by 7 really. It's Friday though, Friday. I'm not sure when I'm going to edit this and get it out because I've got a full teaching day today and I'm out with colleagues tonight. Don't worry, it'll be there. Oh, you'll know by now if I made it or not. There were a couple of things that I forgot to say last night, one of which was don't just leave your pan of boiling water for 40 minutes. Do keep checking on it first in case it's bubbling over, but also if the water level drops as the water evaporates off, you still need to maintain that good inch above the jars. I got this nice tall crock pot, so I didn't have to worry about that. But if you've got a shallower one, you might find you need to kind of top it up as it's boiling, but keep it at that boiling point. The other thing was, you know, my little pot of vinegar that I cleaned the rims with, or what's left of that, you can just stick into the crock pot with the jars, and that stops the surface of the jars going cloudy, apparently. So it would have just gone down the sink anyway, so I just stick it in the pot, and that seems to work quite well. But moment of truth. Now, before I went to bed last night, I did hear some popping, and that's the lid sealing, but now we shall see if all of them have sealed. In each batch that I've done this year, I've had one that hasn't sealed, so let's see if yeah, that's good. If this can be the batch of a full lot. Yep. So what you don't want is it to make the popping noise. Perfect. So what I shall do with these now I shall leave them here for the rest of today. When I get home tonight, I'll take the rings off because you don't store the jars with the rings on, and then just give the jars a wipe down. There's not, again, particularly necessary, but just as a precaution to make sure the jars are nice and clean. And then they'll go into the pantry to store. Oh, and I shall date my lids as well. So that's 32 jars of tomatoes that I have canned this year. I'm really pleased with that. I have now run out of jars. So that is it. What I have not run out of is tomatoes. So these are all my bigger ones. These are all mostly cherries. Oh, actually, I need to do something with these. These are my not sun gold. So those are the ones that I'm going to save seed from. So these shot glasses, not because of tequila. In fact, I'm doing Sober October. They're here for saving seed. So I shall do those ones. In fact, shall we do that quickly together now? It literally takes a second. So yes, if you saw a previous video, you will know that the not sun gold are my absolute favorites. And these are sun gold seed that have been saved and grown. So this is the second generation of them, and they're just so delicious. And that's all you need to do with a cherry is really just squeeze it, and out it comes, out all the seeds come. There we go, and just put a little bit of water in there, and that's it. So I put a label on. Actually, that's the only one that I've got going at the moment, so I'll know that that's the not sun gold. And then just 2 or 3 days later, I use my sieve, pour it out, give it a rinse, and the seeds should be left, and then dry those on some paper. But what I was saying before I interrupted myself there is there's still an awful lot of tomatoes here and a lot still to come. The polytunnel is still full, and I think they will ripen. We've been having good weather so far in October. And now that I've run out of jars, I could dehydrate. I can't freeze. My freezers are full. I could ferment, but I'm not going to. And if you want to know why I'm not going to, tune in to So Chatty on Tuesday at 7 p.m. because Claire and I are going to be talking all things preserving of produce and storing of produce. But I better get ready for work. So thank you for joining me here at Dog on the Plot. Have a great week. Hope to see you next week. Take care.